Okay, so today we'll talk about functions. In fact, we have been using functions from day one, isn't it? So functions, okay, what I said was functions are name that we generally use which have a predefined meaning. Okay, so see when I say run, right? So we all know what run means, right? I don't have to explain. I say, okay, now everybody start running. Now, I don't have to explain the meaning of running because we all know the meaning of running. And when you say somebody says run, your instructor says run, you start running. Now, that's because there is, as I said, right, there's a predefined meaning. So we've been using print, int, all those things, input, right? They are called as predefined functions or already defined functions. They already, developers of Python have already written those functions for us to make our life easy. We can also write our own functions. We call them as user-defined functions. So you have inbuilt functions, right? So inbuilt functions are functions which are already written for us, which we don't have to write, like print, right? Um, Input, okay, etc. Right? There are many. We with ourselves we have used more than 15, 20. Okay, or in fact more than 100, right? If you include the methods, methods are also like a functions, but they are part of a class. So functions can be independent or functions can be part of a class. Like when we use dictionary, list, tuple, or sets, we
Sets.
actually use we actually use even strings. We used methods which are functions written within a class. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to talk about user-defined functions. Okay. So user-defined functions are functions that we will write. Okay. And, so we will write our own functions. Okay. We'll define it. Okay. And then last, we will see what is called as anonymous functions or one-line functions. That probably will take a few days. Okay. So coming back to user-defined functions. Okay. So what is a function? Okay. So basically, it is just a name that we give to few blocks of code. Okay. So if I have to write a few blocks of code like print, what's your name? Okay. Print, what are you doing here? Okay. Print, when will you be done? Okay. Let's say these are 3 lines of code and I need to print these 3 lines of code multiple times and multiple places. If I have to call multiple times instead of copying and pasting these 3 lines every time, okay, I can give it a name. So I can define a name. I can say def my statements or my questions, something like this. My question, see, this is important. Look at the definition. Def is the keyword. Okay, you have to write def, which is short form for definition. You're defining my questions. Now, my questions is the function name that I'm going to give. Just like you have a print name, an input name, I'm giving a name called my questions. Very similar to variable, but it has a different behavior than variable. So far we've been only giving variable names. Now we are giving function name. So def my function bracket open and close. This is the syntax. Okay. Why do we give bracket and close? No answer. That's the syntax. Okay. Why do we say I am, when I say I am and you have to use ing, like I am going, I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm playing, I'm reading, right? Why should we say ing? That's the rule, grammar rule, right? No questions,
Yes.
right? That's the grammar rule. So similarly, the rule for programming language is called syntax. So why should I give bracket open and close? That's how it is. You have to give. Okay. Colon, right? So colon indicates beginning of a block. We have seen this in if, we have seen in for loop, correct? Third time we are using this colon. Colon means beginning of a block. So if it is beginning of a block, obviously these 3 lines has to be inside this, correct? So what I just did is I just created a function, okay? Just created a function called as my questions. Okay, so I created this function. Now when I run it, what will happen? If I run this program, what will happen? Nothing will happen. Okay. See, we have print, we have input, so many things, right? So when you run the program, are they called? No. You have to call it. Okay. You have to call it to use it. So you just created a function, okay? And this creation is not calling. So first you have to create it. Okay, you have to define the meaning of run, you have to define, okay, play, and then you keep calling it whenever you want to. I want to call it here. I'll say my questions, bracket open and close. Okay. Now when run it, those three lines will be called because I'm calling this. So similarly, when you are doing print, okay, print has some block of code. So when you say print, it actually calls the blocks of the block of code which is there when somebody defined the print. And we can actually see the code. We'll see it later. Okay, you can do the print. You can do input. Input also has a block of code. We are calling the code, isn't it? Okay. Similarly, my function is definition. So you define it only once. Each function will have only one definition, right? And you can call it multiple times. Okay. So you define it only once and call multiple times. That's what is your function. Okay. So I can say, okay, print another another time. Let me repeat. Okay. And then again, I'll go and call my functions. You can call it multiple times, right? So it says you have these questions here, then the text which I printed, and then again set of code here. So as I said, print is nothing but is the name that we give to a block of code. Simple. It's very simple as that. Okay. Now, why do we use print? Okay. We use print because we don't want to do the same thing again and again. So instead of print, if you have to do 5 lines of code, imagine in a program how many times you have to use those 5 lines. So it makes our program look much intelligent, much better. You define it and you use it. Now, can I use it before definition? Can I take your test before telling you what function is? No, right? I have to first explain what function is. Then only I can have a test on functions. Similarly, your definition always have to be done before you call the function. I cannot call the function here. I cannot call it here because line number 8, Python doesn't know what my question is. Python only comes to know about it and line number 9. See, already PyCharm is intelligent, right? It's giving me error that you can't run it. Okay, when I run it, it'll give me error. Name my question is not defined. It is not defined. Till line number 8, Python doesn't know what my question is. Only in line number 9, it knows what my question is. So when you define a function, Python doesn't execute it. Python doesn't call it until unless you call it. Okay. So in this case, if I run this program, Python will go from 1 to 7. It will ignore 8, 9, 10, 11. It goes to 13. In 13, when you see my questions, it goes up and see, is there my question definition? Oh, yes, it is here. So after line number 6, 7, it goes to 13. From 13, it goes to 8. Okay, 8, 9, 10, 11, and comes back to 13. So from 13 goes to 8, goes to 11, comes back to 13, then goes to 14. Okay, print, it goes somewhere else. It's a different file. It goes to somewhere else, gets done the print, comes back to 14, then comes to 15, again goes up here, okay, and then comes back to 15. So it starts from the same line, goes to the function definition, and comes back again to the same line, and then goes to the next line. That's how function work, right? And you can give anything in that. So generally, when our objective is to make, our objective is to make these functions more generic. Okay, when I say more generic, then only it will have a much wider use, right? Okay, if you make very specific, then probably it becomes very difficult to use it. So for example, okay, let's say if you are um, talking to a boy or a girl of age less than 20 years, these are the questions that you ask. If you're talking to a man or a woman, okay, you have different set of questions. For example, you know, um, what's your name? Okay, so what's your name? Let's change it to something else. What's your work here? Let's say. Okay. Um, what are your interests? Okay. Why don't you stand out? Okay. So now you see this case. I have same function, my questions, and I have two set of questions. Okay. And two set of questions. I don't ask all these questions to the same person. Okay. Let's assume that you are doing interview for a particular job, right? And depending upon the candidate, depending upon the profile, depending upon the role that you are hiring, you come up with set of questions. But when I run it, obviously all the six questions will be repeated two times here. Okay. So what you will do is you will say here, okay, within the bracket that you will say here choice or something. What it means that you are taking in so you are asking user to give me the function name, which function you want to call. Along with function name, you also want the user to give you the integer value, a choice. Okay, so you'll say if choice equal to 1, then ask these questions. Okay, else, ask this, and you can give multiple values to choice, isn't it? So it means if you give 1, then it should ask these questions only. And if you give something else, 2, 0, or something else, it should ask these three questions. Okay. So same function, now you are managing the set of questions depending upon some condition, which is, in this example, we are saying choice. Now when I run it, what happens? Error. It says my question requires one missing, like one required positional argument. Okay. Okay, let's understand what each of these term means. Required positional argument. This is called as argument. Okay, passing a value to a function is called argument. So when you say print, okay, and you pass the value, print is also a function, right? Defined somewhere else. This is an argument. Okay, we are passing one argument. Okay, we are passing one argument. And when you say your name, comma, something else, comma says that you're passing now two arguments. One comma means you're passing two arguments. So print can take any number of arguments. Input can take 0 or 1 argument. Okay. But here you see choice, it means that you have to give exactly one argument you have to pass. So my questions needs choice. So when you call my question, you have to pass the value for choice.
Okay.
Okay. You have to pass. This is called arguments, and this is called passing the argument. When you're calling, you need to pass it. While passing, while calling. So you just calling here doesn't help. It's like a Xerox shop. When you go to a photocopying shop, you just don't go with empty hand, right? You don't say, okay, give me a Xerox copy, right? It's not like an apple, give me an apple, right? You say, don't give me a Xerox copy. No, you say, okay, give me the copy, original copy. I can give you Xerox of original itself, right? You can't say, give me a copy. So it says, okay, give me choice and I'll give you what? So you give me the original copy and I'll give you a photocopy. This is like that. So I need to give a value. So if I give value 1 here, okay, obviously this is also going to throw error. So I'll say here value 0. I'm saying value 1 and a value 0. So I'm passing a value from here till here. Okay. Now, so you see here, what's your name? What are you doing? Will you be done? When will you be done? This is the set of questions when value is 1. When value is 0, these are the set of questions that you have printed. So now we know what argument is. Yes?
Yes.
You need to pass the argument value to the function, and function has to catch it. Now I cannot say 1 comma 5 here because this function needs only one value. Okay, if I say 1 comma 5, this will also throw error. Okay, it takes only one positional argument, but two were given. Okay, so here you can say A. Now we are not using A, that's fine, but at least they are satisfied. Okay, here also you have to give 2 then. Okay, so it is satisfied. A will take 5 here and A will take 4 here. So this is called arguments. You are passing arguments to a function, and function will use that argument in its body. Okay, that's called argument. Then you have required and positional. What is required and what is positional? Required means here you see I have said choice comma A. That means how many arguments I need? I need 2
Two.
arguments to process this function. Okay, I need 2 arguments to process this function. You have to pass 2 arguments. That's called required. You have to, right? Required. That's what it means, right? So if your function definition needs 2 input arguments, okay, it needs 2 arguments. Don't need to say input. It is input only. If your function definition needs 2 argument, you have to give 2 arguments. Okay, you have to give 2 arguments, even though A is not being used, but my question says, no, I need A. So you have to pass A. Okay, if you give 1, you saw that we got error. This is called required. Okay, 2 arguments, I have to give 2 arguments. Okay, okay. Then third is positional. Positional means choice is on the left and A is on the right. The first is choice, second is A. So choice will get the value A. Sorry. Choice will get the first value, which is 1, and A will get the second value, which is 5. Correct? So it's called positional. Whatever position that argument is at, same position value it will get. You have to give, and the position will match. So first is choice. So choice will get 1. A is 5. A is second and 5 is second here. So A will be 5. Okay, that is what is called as positional. So when I run this program, I can show you, you can say choice equal to choice, say equal to choice. No, first let me put this here. Choice equal to choice and A equal to A, right? Now when I run it, so you see choice is 1 and A is 5. Choice is 0 and A is 4. So it has to be there. That's why required. Positional is it has to be in the same position. And okay, these are called arguments here. So if you need to pass, you have to pass. Okay, so we just now learned to create a function, okay, and pass arguments to it. And we have seen the first property, which is the argument should be there, required, and it should be in the same order, positional. Okay. There's one more property to the functions. Okay. Now I can show you an example here. So when we did string, okay. So let's say, let me create a string equal to hello, right? And what we did, we said print, okay, str1 dot lower, correct? And when you say str1 dot lower, what happened? It printed hello,
Lowercase.
right? It printed lowercase hello, okay? Now, what I'll do now is, I will say output equal to str1 dot lower, and I will put output here. Okay, you got hello. Now, what is this doing? What is this doing? Okay, how do you get output here? Hello. Okay, now we'll take another example. We'll take example of list. List 1 equal to 5, 1, 9, 6, 2, 7, 3. So this is your list 1. Okay, this is your list 1. Now I'll say list 1 dot reverse. Okay, and I'll say output 2. Okay, and now let me print output 2 here. What did you get? None. We got none. We didn't get the reverse list. Okay, if you say print list 1 and run it, so list 1 got reversed, but when I say output, okay, it says none. Okay, so what did we see here? Returns. Okay, so look at the word called return here. Okay, in programming language called as returns. So returns a value. Okay, this does not return a value. Okay, so for example, when you go to a post box, okay, to drop a letter, okay, you drop the letter. When you drop the letter, do you get anything back in your hand? No, right?
No.
Right. So that is like your list. You have done your job and that's it. You are not getting anything back in return. You have done your job, done. But when you go to Xerox shop and you give the original, okay, then what you do, you get something back?
Yes.
Yes, you get the photocopy,
Photocopy.
yeah, you get the copy, right? So this is like this is where you are getting something in your hand. So see, both lower is also a function, or I mean, it's a method, so it's also a function, and reverse is
Reverse.
also a function, right? You want to see one more example? Let's say here, I say out equal to print hello. Okay. Now I go and say print out equal to out. Again, you get none here, right?
Yes.
But when we do out equal to input, okay, and now when you say print out, okay, it's waiting. I'll say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that print is not returning anything. Print does not return like reverse. And input returns the input value. So this returns and this does not return. Okay. Now you tell me, what is our function doing? Okay. So to know what our function is doing, we have to say, my out, something like, correct? And here you go and say print my out equal to comma my out. Now when you run it, okay, my out,
None.
none. That means our function does not return anything. It's like letterbox. You go and you drop the letter, then you're not getting it back anything. But if you want to get back something, okay, there are some situations where you need to get back. Like input is a situation where you need to get back what value user has inputted. You string is a function. String methods are all returning, okay, because string is immutable. You can't edit the values, so it will return it. It returns the new value. List is mutable. So what happens? List changes itself. It does not return, but changes its own values. Okay, so so that's why in the list, when we used here reverse, it reverse itself because list can be edited. So it reverse itself, did not give you anything. But here, since str1 cannot change itself, the output answer is given to you. Okay, so here it says I don't have to give you back. I'm able to handle everything by myself. So you're not getting anything. Okay, but let's say if you want to return something. So we have something called as return. Okay, return keyword. So return what? Return job done. Okay, now this return job done is within else, correct?
Yes.
So when you get else part only, this will be
That will be
returned,
yes.
right? So here is it else? No. So here you'll get none, but here if you do, you will get job done.
Job done. Yes.
So if I print it again here, okay. So see, my out is none, and then my out, where is my out here? My out is job done, right? Because we gave here, okay? If you want entire program to take it, then you give it in the main program here. Now, no matter what, you get job done as return. Now, you want to catch it or not, it's up to you. Okay, I don't need to handle it. Okay, now you take photocopy and throw it in dustbin. It's your headache, right? So you don't print it. If you don't print it, you don't get. Okay. The job of function is to return you a value. Now, what you do, you use it, you don't use it, it's your decision, right? But the function will give you the output. Okay, you don't use it, okay, fine, don't use it. Okay, so this is called as your return value. So function, okay, is block of code plus it can take some argument and it can return some values. Again, it can return anything. You can return a list, tuple, dictionary, set, you know. Uh, if you want to return two values, you return it as a list or tuple. Mainly it is written as tuple so that you don't change the value, okay? So you can return any data type that we have discussed so far. We have discussed almost like 8 or maybe more, right? 5 plus 4, 9 we have discussed, right? You can return any, and we will do few more later. You can return even those that we are going to select, pandas, numpy, you can return them. Okay, so whatever you return, the same thing will be caught. Okay, now this is called as function. Okay, this is also called as function which does not have a body. Okay, this is called as main function. In Python, sorry, yeah, in Python, you don't have to define main. But if you go to Java, you have to
Yes.
define main.
Yes.
Okay, in Java, you have to say main because it doesn't know what is main. Python says, okay, if I don't give you, it's like door, right? Okay, in big hotels and restaurants, they'll have entry and exit. Malls, they have entry and exit. Why? They have two doors. So if you have two doors, you have to mention, oh, this is entry door, this is exit door. Python says, okay, I have only one door, so I don't have to mention it main door, right? You don't see entry slash exit. In your home, you don't write entry slash exit, right? You have only one door to enter. That is for entering also, for exiting also. So Python says, if I write from beginning, now I'll tell you why we write from beginning. We don't give even a space here. We write from indentation. When you write from beginning, it means all these are part of main
Oh,
program. All these are part of main program. And this main program is called automatically. In Java, it's not like that. You have to first mention, and also you have to say public static void. Public static means this is the first program to call. Python says, no, I don't have to do all those things. I'll make it life simple. I'll simply make you start writing from here so that you don't have to tell me, or I don't have to tell you what is main, and I don't have to tell you that this should be executed first. Okay, so that's why I said whatever you write from first, that is executed. The moment he sees, okay, this is def and it is away from, it's a def, so def will not be executed till you call it. So you can make mistakes. You can even make, even you can make syntax error. You can make syntax error, and if you're not calling, it will not be called. Okay, let's try and see if what I said is correct or not. So here you go, you comment out. Okay, so now I'm not calling any function, right? Now I go and I delete this, let's say, quotation. Okay, now when I run it, okay, the syntax is maintained. Okay, syntax will not be left out. But let's see if I say comma name. Okay, now when you run it, it is not giving you error saying a name is not defined. Syntax error, it will check before running it. Okay, that's the job of Python. But it's not saying that name is not defined. I'm using name, but it's not giving error because it will not go inside this. Program is not going inside. It comes here, directly goes straight. When you make it work, now I'm going inside this. Now when you run it, it says, sorry, what is name? Name is not defined. Okay, that's when it's get executed. Okay, otherwise, okay, you don't go everywhere, right? Before coming to class, you don't revise your dictionary. Oh, today I might be asked what is run meaning, what is laugh meaning. You don't do that, right? Because we're not expected. Only when you are asked, you are going to answer. So when you are saying, okay, execute it, now it executes, and if there's any error, it will give you error. Otherwise, it will not give you error. So this is an example of a simple function which takes a parameter, which takes parameters, more than one. We call them as arguments, or parameters are also called. Okay, so it takes arguments or parameters and it returns a value, which returns a string value. And when it returns a value, it has to be caught. Okay, or if you want to use it, if you do not want to use it, do not catch it.
Okay,
Here I don't want to use it, do not catch it. Here I want to use it, so I will catch it. And this is how you catch it. Something equal to your function name. That means you are catching it. Okay. So now when I run it, okay, I'm not catching it here, so I'm not getting job done. But here I'm catching it and printing it, so I'm getting this output as job done. So it's up to you whether you want to catch it or not. Okay, so two basic properties. One, the input parameters or the arguments you need to give, not here, sorry, here. Input arguments and then a return value.
return values.
Okay, every function will have these two, and both are not mandatory. You can choose not to give return. You can choose not to give arguments. If you are able to manage your work without arguments, well and good. If you are able to manage your work without return, well and good. But somewhere you have to return, right? And we'll see examples where sometimes we may not need return, sometimes we will need return. Okay. Apart from that, apart from those basic properties, we discuss what is required positional argument. Correct? Positional argument, of course. Required means the value is required. Positional means it has to be in the same position. First, second, third. So it has to be first, second, third position. All good so far? I'll pause for 20 seconds.
Yes.
Yes, it was clear.
Okay, great. Now we will move to the next level. Now, next level is how to make it non-required. So now we will see how to make it non-required. Then we will see how to make it non-positional also. So we'll take same example. to see all those things, and then we'll take some good examples and we'll practice. So I'll move to the next file because we have done a lot of work here, right? So let me move to P11, okay? Now this is a function, my choice, and I'm passing the value. Obviously, you get this. Oh, I have to run this now, right? So you get this, okay. Now let's say I do not want to make A as mandatory, required. I don't want it to be I want to make it non-required. So non-required is called as default value. Non-required is called default parameter or keyword or argument. Default argument. Okay. Now, so if I say that no, I will not give you value for A, then function will say, okay, if you don't give me value for A, at least tell me what should be my value if you don't give me. You say, okay, your value is minus 99. So if I give you the value, you should take what I give you. If I don't give you any value, then you take minus 99 as a value. But it is still positional. Okay, that means, well, sometimes my eye doesn't work. I don't know, I'm still sleepy or what. This is the argument, right? This is where you need to give, not inside. So I'm saying A equal to minus 99. Okay, I'm assigning a value at the time of giving argument. So I'm saying A, and at the same time, I'm saying minus 99. Okay, so I'm saying this is example of default value. Okay, I'm saying A equal to minus 99. That means if you give me a value, I will take a value, but it's still positional. Okay, so it will only be the second value.
Yes.
So if I give you 5, then A will be 5 only. Then A minus 99 has no meaning. Okay, but if I again call this, okay, and I say, okay, I don't want to give value for A, I'll give only value for choice. This is A will say, okay, fine, I have a default value, I will use the default value. Okay, so now let's say you are saving your employee data, and most of your employees are sitting in Bangalore. Let's say you have offices across the world, right? Sales offices across the world. But obviously, sales staff will be 10%, 20% of your staff, right? 80% is developers, and all the developers are sitting in Hyderabad, let's say. So when you want to save the employee information, you can say location equal to Hyderabad by default. So if I hire someone in different location, I'll mention that location equal to Delhi or whatever. But if I don't mention location, by default, it will save Hyderabad in the, okay, so 80% of the time it is Hyderabad. So you say, okay, if 80% is Hyderabad, let me not give Hyderabad, but if you are saving some code, right? You're saving some lines of code. Okay, but if by saying default, something else. So if 99% of the time, if 80% of the time, if 70% of the time, I need to use value of A as minus 99, I will assign A as minus 99 here as default value. And when I don't mean minus 99, only then I will give the value for A. Otherwise, I will not give the value for A, and the default value will be saved. Make sense?
Yes.
This is called as giving default value. So how do you give default value? You have to say, in the function definition, okay, in the definition, when you're defining, only then you have to say default value. Okay, so if you are not defining, you cannot give as default. Okay, if you are defining, okay, only then you can say default. Now you understand why input can take 0 or 1 value. Okay, so somebody who has has written the input function would have defined it as def input bracket text equal to blank. Okay, this is how they would have defined it. So when you do not give the value for text, it takes blank, nothing. Or when you give value for text, it takes it as what you give. You understood?
Yeah.
Now, because previous case we said that you have to give value, then how can input work, right? Input can take 0 or 1 argument. Okay. So how can I take 0? This is how it can take 0. You give define input text equal to, and of course, then in the body you write the logic for inputting value. Now here, if you don't provide text, it knows that it has to take default text, which is blank, nothing. Or if you have to give some text, it will be replaced. This is called default argument. Okay, default argument. Okay. Now, one more thing you have to remember is when you are giving default argument, it has to be on the right side. So let's say choice and A. Choice is mandatory. Still, choice is mandatory. You can have mandatory default together. Choice I
Yes.
have not given equal to. So it is mandatory. I have to give. I cannot have my functions without single parameter. It has to have one parameter for choice. But it need not have parameter value for A because we have
Yeah.
given a default value.
Yes. Yes.
So when you are having a default value, why should it be given on the right hand side, not on the left hand side? When you have a required and a default, when you have both in a function, required choice and default, which is A, why should it be given on the right hand side, not on the left hand side? You can tell me?
Because the computer will expect both to be defaulted.
No, okay. So now see here, we said positional, right? So if I put 1, 5, okay, then 1 goes to choice, 5 goes to A minus. So
A.
it doesn't really matter what you put, choice or A. But let's look at second case. My question 1. Now in my question 1, okay, now 1 will go to choice, correct?
Yes.
Now if we had put A before choice, then 1 would go to,
A.
yes, 1 would go to
A.
A. Even though A is default, still it gets, okay, value. But
Yes.
choice is not getting any value.
Yes.
Choice has to get a value, isn't it?
Yes.
Because choice is required. You have to give value for A. You cannot jump because positional, right?
Mm.
And in that case, making A default doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? So there is a, there is a story where this guy, gets a seat in the train, okay, and he's allotted last bogie in the train. So whenever he went out to buy something, right, train would start and he has to come back running. So whole journey he was like hungry. He couldn't buy anything from the station because his bogie was at the last, right, at the end. He got down and by the time he could go to the shop, train would start moving. So he had to come back. So, he said that, train should not, he wrote a complaint to the railways that train should not have a last bogie, right?
Yes.
So just like that, can you not have a last bogie?
They can.
If you have, so if you have 10, then 10th one is the last. If you have 5, fifth one is the last. If you have 2, second is the last. You cannot have last without having, so same thing, okay? You cannot have a value, you cannot give a value to the second letter without giving to the first,
Yes. Yes.
right? So
Yes.
if I have to give value to the first and if I have to give value to the last, let's say, then what's the point of making it default? No point. Okay. So if you have set of default values and set of required values, default values should be at the right side.
Mm.
You cannot have choice A, then B, then C equal to 50. Not possible. If you have choice A, B, C, then you put A after B. So that if I need, I have to provide two values. So I will provide two values. third and fourth is optional for me to provide or not. Third and fourth is optional for me whether I want to provide it or not. I may not provide it, I'll provide it, my wish. But for choice and B, I have no choice, right? I have to give value. So these has to be before. Okay. So
Yes.
remember this, default values will always be at the end because of this reason. If it is not at the end, if it is the beginning of, okay, and then you have required value on the right. If required value is on the right, so you have to go up to required value. You have to go up to the last value. So how can you go to the last without going to the first few?
Mm.
Okay. So
Yes.
that's the point. Okay. So this is called default value. So you have a function with default values. Okay. So this
Yes.
is how you make non-required, required, non-required. Okay. If you make it default, it becomes non-required. Okay. I don't have to give it. Okay. The next question comes, how to make it non-positional. So we talk about positional also so far. Every time we're talking about positional. Now I want to make it non-positional. It is called as keyword argument. Okay. What it means is if you say equal to at the definition, it becomes default. If I give value here, this is called keyword. So choice and A, right? So
Yes.
I'll say choice equal to A equal to. Now, when you say keyword, you have to give values for all here. Choice equal to 5, A equal to 1. So I have to use exact same variable name, choice and A, choice and A.
Okay. Okay.
Now it's no longer positional.
Positional.
I'm saying A equal to 1. So A will take 1 and choice will take 5 here.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
choice is 5 and A is 1. This is called as keyword argument. So default, you say equal to at the function definition. For keyword, you have to say equal to when we are calling it. So when you're calling it, if you say equal to, and this we will see when we do big algorithms, right? Big function algorithms in machine learning or even in data structure, we'll see a lot of such usage. Because your function will have 20 arguments, right? Function will have 20 arguments. Let's say you want to draw a bar graph. Okay. So if you want to draw a bar graph, you need value for values to draw, right? Your y values to draw. Okay. But apart from that, that is must, that is required. But then you have header, footer, x-axis, y-axis, all those things you do not want to give. Sometimes you might want to give, sometimes you may not want to give. Okay. So when you don't want to give, it is default, they're all blank, so it will not throw error. But let's say, okay, in function definition, they have put title first, and then they have put um, say X label. Okay, what you put on the X-axis. Now, if I do not have a choice of being non-positional, then I have to give value for title. That's what the problem we discussed here, right? You have to give value for choice if you give default value on the right side. You cannot give default on the left, right? So if I have
Yes.
to reach to the X level, which is at 10th position, I have to give some value. I'm forced to give value for all the 9 variables before. Correct?
Mm. Yes. Yes.
Now, if it is 1 on 2, it doesn't matter. But when you have 20 and after 20, 15 are default, right? So you don't have to give values for default. You can directly say, okay, that X level equal to. So that's the beauty of using keyword. If you have
Mm.
20 variables to handle, you don't have to give values to all the 20 variables before you reach to your 21st variable. Okay. So we have seen function with required arguments, keyword
And
arguments, and default
mm.
argument. So default and key required is at the function definition. By looking at the function definition, you will know whether it is required or default. Keyword arguments is in your hand when you are
Calling.
calling it.
Yes.
When you are calling it, it's in your
Yes.
hand as a user. You have developer who's will going to write it. For example, input or for print, you have no choice. But when you are, using print and input, I mean, you don't have choice for default. But for this, you have choice for giving keyword argument when you're using those functions. Okay, so we'll see, not now, but later when we draw plots and machine learning algorithms and all, we'll see, that's usage of keyword argument. But did you understand now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
by using keyword, you can get away with the positional stuff.
Positional.
Okay, so far we have seen what is called as function, function with return value, no return value, function with no arguments, and arguments. With arguments, we have seen what is required, what is positional, and what is keyword, and what is default, right? Four things we have seen: required, positional, default, and keyword. Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. There is one more to it, and then we will end for today. The fourth one is called, okay, variable number of arguments. Now, you talk about print. Print can take 0 argument, 1 argument, 2 arguments, n number of arguments. How can print take n number of arguments? Okay, so there's a concept of variable arguments in Python. There's concept of variable number of arguments in Python. Okay, and with that only print is print. Otherwise, would have been difficult for print, because what I said, in print you can pass any number of arguments. You can pass even 100 number of arguments. Okay, does that mean that print definition has 100 arguments? Okay, no. There's a way to handle variable number of arguments. Okay, so how do you handle a variable number of arguments? So I'm going to write a function here called def my favorite fruits, something like that. Now my favorite fruits, okay, can be none. I don't like any fruit, let's say, or can be one. I like only one fruit. Can be 100. I liked 100 fruit. 100 fruits, right? Possible. So instead of saying, you know, fruits, okay, instead of saying fruits, I will say star fruits. Okay, and this star comes only at the time of function definition, not anywhere else you will see star. Okay, star for variable number of values or arguments. Okay, and you say print my favorite fruits are, right? And you say comma fruits. So here you're using like a normal variable. Here you're using like a normal variable. Okay, not like a star fruit. Star is mentioned only at the time of getting the input. Okay, maybe what I can do is, okay, let's see the output and then we will see what I was doing. So now I'm saying my
My
favorite
favorite.
fruits, and I will enter guava. Now when you run it, you see my favorite fruits are guava. See, this is a tuple, right? Simple
Hmm.
bracket open and close. So this is a tuple. So now if I don't give any favorite fruit, it will still say favorite fruit blank, right? So instead I can here I can do is blank, right? You don't want to put blank. So I'll say if len of fruits, okay, equal to 0. You will say print I don't like fruits. Okay. Otherwise, else, okay, my favorite fruits are. Now I can say 0. I can say here, you know, guava, mango, apple, papaya. Nobody is stopping you. Okay. Whatever you give, it will handle it. Only thing is, it handles like a tuple. You are getting values like a tuple, and you can use all your tuple properties. One thing I missed to say yesterday was that sets can be converted into tuple into lists. So set,
Sets.
list, and tuple. All these three are interconvertible. Okay. Now let's say my favorite fruits. I'll say mango, mango, mango. Okay. Mango, mango, mango. Now this is not right. I mean, your favorite fruit, you say mango, 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 but it's all not different. It's same, right? So what you
Yes.
can do is here you can say set of. Just showing you how you can convert tuple to set. When you say set of, your duplicate values will be removed. My favorite fruits are mango.
Curly
Now,
brackets.
since we converted into
Set.
set, you see this curly bracket.
Curly brackets.
And again, but if you want output to be in tuple only, you put tuple here. You convert into set and then reconvert it back to tuple.
Tuple.
Okay. Now you see, you'll have tuple here. Now if I say apple, you get
With apple.
apple here. Okay. So this is how you can give variable number of arguments using star. You will say, no, I need to give minimum one value. You cannot have no favorite fruit. You have to have at least one favorite fruit. Okay. Then you can give an required value, F1 or something like that. Now, in that case, you cannot have blank value being
Blank.
passed, right? You have to give a value here. Error. This is required positional argument missing. Required as well as positional. First one. Okay. So you have to say here orange or something. Okay. Orange. And let's see, put orange here also. Okay. Now, since we are printing fruits only, when you print the output, if the first fruit is gone, right? So what you can do is you can, okay, now in this case, there's no chance of fruits being like that. So what you can do is you can say list of fruits, because you need to add F1 also to this. So list of fruit will make it list. Then you can say append. Then you add F1. And then again, you reconvert it back to tuple. Right? Now when you use it, so, oops, what happened? Why this error? None object is not iterable. None object, because fruits does not have this, right? So none of it became none here. Fruit does not have this. So what we'll do is, if we will put this one here in else. If length of fruit is 0, then I'll say print my favorite fruit is F1. Okay. Where are we iterating? Are we iterating? Right. None object. When did it become none? If length of fruits equal to 0. Okay, let me comment this out. I'm guessing this is throwing error. You comment this out. No, this is not throwing error. Okay. Okay. So maybe, okay. We'll see later. But anyway, that's not our thing, right? I'll see why, this is creating problem. But okay, for now, just ignore this. Okay. So you have, these values here. Okay. This is when you are getting values from here. These are the normal values. But let's say you also want to get what you say, some other values, in the sense from keyword values. Okay, so you can even have something like double star interests, let's say. So double star will read it like a, so star and double star both are for variable number of arguments.
Variable.
Okay, single star will take okay as tuple, double star will read as dictionary. Okay, so I can say here, okay, in this case, now here again I can say if len of interests not equal to 0, then I'll say, okay, my other print, my other interests are, okay, and this becomes a dictionary. How? I'll pass here something like this, color. Okay, now see, color is a text, but I'm not putting as a quotation because this is like a keyword for you when you're calling the function.
Yes.
Color equal to red. Okay, place equal to say Hyderabad. Okay, food equal to
Biryani.
biryani. Okay, so here I can say my favorite interests are, my other interests are for I comma j, or no, we are not using ij, right? I can safely use ij. I is for ij, okay, in interests dot items. Items will give you two values, right? And then I'm going to say print favorite comma I. I will be the key color. Then I'll say is, then j. Okay, now when you run it, so you see my other interests are favorite color is red, favorite place is Hyderabad, favorite food is biryani. Okay, so you can use your program to handle variable number of arguments. You can use it like a linear with a single value, like in as a tuple format, where by default you'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as index, or you can read it like a keyword using keywords here. So this will be read as a dictionary. Okay, so the keyword variable is your key, and the value that you pass is your value in the dictionary. Okay, so this is a dictionary, key colon value, key colon value, key colon value. Make sense?
Yes.
We'll stop here for today. Any questions?